Hi, welcome to another episode of the GenAI CIO Podcast. We were silent last week because all of us were traveling. I was traveling primarily. So we will still cover what happened in the last couple of weeks and then we will go back to our schedule starting next week. Siva here, founder of Lizer, the enterprise agent framework company. And I'm joined by Rishabh, who is founder of GoML, the GenAI consulting company here. Today we have some exciting news, lot of model launches, some open source ones as well. So let's just get started with the very first one for the day. So Elon Musk continues to stride forward in the open source AI arena. So Grok 1.5 was unveiled last week, and it is definitely performing better than Grok 1. So it's called 1.5, no doubts about it. It's a 128K context length, and it's achieving about 90% benchmark on GSM 8K benchmark and etc. Still not nowhere near GPT-4 level, but just see, I mean, the models are already hitting the 80th percentile. Most of the models, not just Grok 1.5, even the other models as well. So yes, we are definitely moving towards probably highly capable open source models coming in the future. However, my take is the speed at which we moved from 0 to 80% will be much faster than moving from 80 to 90 and from 90 to 95 and from 95 to say 99. I think the is going to be much slower from now on. That's my hunch, seeing what GPT-4 and Claude has done so far. I could be totally wrong. Sam Altman keeps saying that GPT-5 is much bigger and smarter, etc. Obviously, he has to do his marketing stuff, but that's my personal take.
No,
Rishabh, over to
absolutely, Shiva.
you.
Yeah. See, one thing I think, and this is something that we've really spoken about like heavily in our previous podcasts as well, that the whole innovation metrics are going to change, right? While till date, whenever a model is released, what's focused on is how big the context window is, right? What's the use cases that they're actually solving, right? What is the number of parameters that it's actually trained on, and so on and so forth, right? So my perspective, Shiva, over here is that with the technologies that Meta and Google are actually bringing in, where context window will become infinite, right? It will become irrelevant, right? So your whole innovation metrics will change. But I agree with you that obviously, there is going to be a play, or there is going to be a stage where, all of these players will merge together to a certain extent,
Yeah.
and the level of differentiation that they'll be able to bring on table will be more at the implementation level than at the model level. Like at one point, all these models will start merging from accuracy perspective and whatnot. But while that happens, the whole way that you're actually measuring the accuracy or the innovation of these models is definitely going to change over the next couple of months, right? That's what I'm really looking forward to. We will no longer be talking that, a model now has, 212K context window, right?
Yeah.
And so on and so forth, right? So that's what my perspective is.
Yeah, I agree. Let's see what happens in the next coming months with this new model, especially with Grok. Let's see how long Elon Musk continues to go down this
See,
path,
my
given the
perspective
fact that,
again is that Grok, right, while obviously is an open source model, and I think we remember the podcast when Shiva was against open source, just two podcasts away. But Shiva, at least from practical implementation perspective, I think it's not there yet. And I'm not complimenting more from accuracy perspective, right? It's the adaptability as well, right? While probably, Llama and Llama 3 released this week, we'll probably dive a little deeper into it next week and so on, right? I think Grok, and I might be totally wrong, we'll have to probably see as we move forward, is more of a gimmick from X's side, what they're actually using to probably market or probably stay relevant in this market. But I really don't see any practical implementation, at least in the use cases that we are doing right now.
no, see, open source, when it comes to, I'm not against open source, right? Because even at Lizer, we have an open source version. Uh, all the smaller technologies like databases, agent frameworks, I support the open source movement there. But when it comes to resource compute consuming technologies like LLMs, the open source has the same effect like a car that runs on water. it is environmentally friendly, all that is great, but it is just not practical to manage your own model on GPUs and fine tune them and then improve them. It's not just practical, to be honest. So
But
that's
speaking more
why, yeah.
just one perspective to that, Shiva, right? Is and I'm speaking more from the engagement that we've had with a couple of our customers, right? And there is a manufacturing customer that we're working with in India based, a pretty decent mid-sized manufacturing customer. The use case is pretty straightforward, right? It really doesn't require you to probably have an engine like GPT-4 running, right? So they're very cost conscious and the use case is pretty simplified. We actually leverage Llama 2 to implement, right? So what my perspective over here is that there are still use cases that can be solved, right? While again, it becomes, as we've spoken about the three-part framework, right? Cost, data, and hosting, right? But there are certain use cases that can
Not
still be
that.
solved with open
No,
source.
no, not just that. Managing the weights and biases and improving the model output over a period of time. The administration work on the model is also quite high. So yeah, it just adds on continuously, right?
Correct.
So
But and that's where I started, right? The use case that with this customer that we're actually solving is a very straightforward use case, right? When I say straightforward, it doesn't require a lot of training, doesn't require a lot of data and so on and so forth, right? So there are still use cases that we're seeing in the market, like that can be solved with these low hanging models. I mean, and people are implementing it, right? So yeah, I totally agree with you that the overhead of managing is definitely higher, but then there are certain use cases that really don't require that overhead as well, right? So,
cool. Let's
all right.
let's see what happens in future. Yeah.
Let's move on to our next update. So OpenAI has, revealed a voice engine, right, feature. Uh, and what it actually does is something similar to what 11 Labs also does, right, in the market today is
Hmm.
that all you have to do is you have to give a sample human voice, right, to the engine. And it will mimic any kind of text that you actually give moving forward. It'll actually mimic that person's voice reading out that particular content, right? Which, as I mentioned, probably there are tools available in the market, like 11 Labs has been doing that for a couple of months now, right? With good amount of accuracy, right, Shiva? You also implemented it. But I think the differentiation that they are trying to bring over here is the amount of training that is actually required, right? Or the sample size primarily. I think 11 Labs require at least close to 10 minutes, or probably other tools also available in the market for you to probably give that sample recording, right? But
Correct. 1 minute.
with
11 lab needs 1 minute.
Okay, yeah, I mean a couple of minutes, right, for you to get good accuracy upon.
Yes.
But at least in the demo that OpenAI revealed, right, they were able to do this with just a 15-second video, right, with high level accuracy, right, when they were reading out those, text, excerpts, just a 15-second demo video, the demo audio, right, a sample audio of that particular person. They were able to mimic that particular person's behavior. And it was not only just the voice, right? What I was super impressed with, Shiva, was even though, like in that, the kind of, mode that that person has taken, the gaps in terms of the overall, speaking, and so on
The
and so forth, that
the
were also
whole
mimicked very well.
the overall the modulation with which they speak, isn't
Exactly.
it?
Exactly.
Got
Right.
it. Mm.
So, and what they've also revealed is they've been working on this since 2022, right? And they've been leveraging this in-house as well, but now they plan to release this. Again, I think, as you mentioned, that Shiva GPT-5, one would be accuracy that they will actually bring in. But these are the features that I'm really excited about of GPT-5. Sora, this voice engine that they've made, and additional features will be packed there.
Yeah. Cool.
And with that particular update, a very small update again on OpenAI's side, and this is although it's a very small update, but it makes the model much more reliable, right? Something which
Mm.
Perplexity and the likes have been doing heavily, which is
Mm.
now for its paid users, right, on ChatGPT. OpenAI has now made a citation of the sources from which it's actually getting that particular response generated uh, as part of the response, right? Again, something similar to what Perplexity and the likes have been doing. OpenAI is a little late in the game for this particular piece, but what I feel, Shiva, is that while it's not a huge update, from from accuracy perspective, etc., but from usability perspective, it definitely puts this into as a game changer because now one of the biggest problems that I, as a user, when I consume ChatGPT, is that for a lot of these use cases, I tend to probably go back and validate the source a lot of time, right? And that probably requires me to toggle between Google search, ChatGPT, Perplexity to a certain extent, and so on. Like, but now that's something that they've actually tried to solve.
There seems to be no mode for perplexity. It's kind of getting very clear now, right? With ChatGPT bringing in citations, ChatGPT becoming more real time, and obviously the algorithm is stronger. They are the original owners of the algorithm anyway.
Yep. The only, as you rightly mentioned, right, that probably ChatGPT brings in or probably the usability in the accuracy perspective. Then there are a lot of these, parallel models that have brought in certain features. But the moment ChatGPT introduces it in, their particular use case, they bring down a lot of such implementations which have been built around as wrappers or just simple innovations, right? So, yep, that you're absolutely right. They don't have a mode right now
Yeah,
any longer. Sorry, yeah.
yeah, any longer. Moving on,
All right.
Apple cannot contain themselves, obviously. They launched ReALM. ReALM stands for ReALM stands for Reference Resolution as Language Modeling. So it's ReALM, but I mean, the way it is, when I look at it, I read it as ReALM, so for some reason. Good thing is, the model, these are smaller models, 80 million, 250 million, 1 billion models. But they are pretty good when it compared to GPT-4. They're definitely better than 3.5 already, these smaller models. And Apple as a company will continue to focus on SLM, so just small language models that can run locally on edge devices, especially Apple phones. Apparently, the upcoming WWDC Worldwide Developer Conference of Apple, they're expecting, all of us are expecting that Apple will launch a better Siri finally after many years, which can go beyond just taking reminders for you. So yeah, that's what's in store with ReALM from Apple. Let's see what happens.
I think, again, everyone knows that no, Apple probably has created a niche for themselves. Right? I'm a big time Apple user, not for Siri for sure. I mean, you mentioned reminders. Why I was smiling, Shiva. I've not even used it for reminders. But obviously there are multiple things that they're now doing right while releasing open source models, like which Apple has never done, right?
Hmm.
Partnering with Google, and I remember and I know everyone remembers that Sundar Pichai meeting Tim Cook and all, right, and the other speculation,
Yeah.
right? So partnering with Google to improve their voice accuracy, I think was never thought of. No one would have thought, right, like Apple would do that with any other tech company. Let it be Google, right? So very interesting updates, but see, one thing is in the world of GenAI, the pace at which the other hardware providers are moving, I think Apple will have to probably move as fast as they can, while they still have a very niche segment that adopts. But just sharing from my personal aspect of it, Apple Watch, right, which I've been using for a long time now, I'm having second thoughts of probably moving to a parallel hardware, right, which is primarily Garmin, because they bring in additional features in addition to probably understandability, NLP capabilities, NLU capabilities, which probably they don't do today, right? So yeah, so I mean, good update, but my only perspective is they'll have to probably start making more investments in this same.
Yeah. So
All
that's
right.
on Apple. What next?
So Mistral obviously, has been across making news. They released their first closed source model, Mistral Large. But one thing that hadn't happened yet, Shiva, was that Mistral wasn't available or Mistral Large wasn't available on Amazon Bedrock, right? And just again for the listeners who do not know this, but Amazon provides a platform which is a managed service for running your large language models, right? Which is called Bedrock, right? And they GA'd this, earlier this year, right? For their customers to use. The advantage, obviously, Bedrock brings in that it has now, with Mistral Large also available, it has now close to 12 different large language models that you can actually experiment with, which is the highest on any of these managed services providers platforms, right? So Mistral Large is now available on Amazon Bedrock, which means now customers can experiment on their Bedrock application, the applications that they've actually built on Bedrock across Mistral Large as well, right? So flexibility again, while I know it's again, Mistral, or probably it gives Amazon a chance to enter into France, right, as a territory as well. But I think the flexibility now, Shiva, that we as a partner at least get is now without moving customers outside of Bedrock, we can experiment with Mistral as well, right? While we've been
Got
able
it.
to do that with Anthropic and Meta models till now, but this brings Mistral also into the picture.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that Claude 3 has come out and it's doing pretty well has probably eased the pressure on Amazon. The Mistral launch is also just an added feather on the cap, but I think
Absolutely.
as we are seeing already, customers on AWS are flocking to Claude anyway. So yeah, that's where they are. What next?
Brilliant. One last update on OpenAI, right, Shiva, for today. I know it's been all OpenAI today. Again, it's a rundown to GPT-5, right? So they've actually released Vision in conjunction with GPT-4 Turbo, right? So while
Hmm.
Turbo allowed mostly text generation till date, right? Now you can actually leverage, image generation as well. But one additional input from consumption. This
So
is more for people who are actually good, sorry.
no, so basically, instead of having a separate GPT Vision API, now everything is coming into one single API, making it truly multimodal.
Exactly, right. And we are actually leveraging GPT-4 Turbo for one of our financial services customers, actually an investment portfolio customer, right? And one of the problems that we were facing, Shiva, was that, and we still are facing is because now they have these documents, right? Some of these documents are text, some of these documents have images. So what I had to do was I had to build a layer of vision on top of this, right? Then probably
Right.
everything that, is not text probably goes to vision, which is text probably goes to. So we had to build a workflow
And
because we wanted to keep the
and you
costs
might
also limited.
and you might have to build a logic on top separately to
Exactly.
detect whether you have to call the Vision API or
Because
the
we
text
want while
API.
while everything could have been sent to Vision, but we wanted to control the costs also, right, for the customer,
Got
right?
it. Got it.
So Turbo and Vision were sitting separately. We had to build this logic there, but with this update, obviously, at least such type of
Got it.
developments will be very easy, right?
Yeah.
So you can just consume it as an endpoint and start doing as a function calling for your workflow,
Yeah.
right? So we are very excited, especially for this use case. So I thought we'll share this as well.
Yeah, I know it is a big one because it removes a lot of development effort from builders who are building on the API. You don't have to build your own logic now. GPT-4 Turbo is natively capable of handling
Yes,
images and text, right? So yeah, that's a really good one.
brilliant update. Yep.
The last news for the day, another big one. Mistral launches their 176 billion parameter model, which is a mixture of experts, 8 experts coming together. Each is a 22 billion model, and they seem to outperform GPT-4. So finally, there is an open source model which is as good as GPT-4. But there are a lot of jokes running around the efficiency of running such a large model.
Yeah.
You are going to spend ton of money on infra if you're going to run it locally. So maybe this would be good for say research projects, super secret projects, life sciences companies, banking customers. Otherwise, I think OpenAI API is still the best way to do things. It's faster, it's cheaper, etc. But the good thing is we need to give kudos to Mistral because they're continuing to push the boundary towards GPT-4, having a model available for everyone to play around. So that's something that's really really cool about what Mistral is doing here. Yeah,
No,
so that's
it's
I think
a
very soon I think very soon this will be available in Bedrock on Bedrock, Amazon Bedrock also.
I, yeah, I mean the way that Bedrock is integrating models, I'm pretty sure about it. Sure. But what I like you rightly mentioned, right? What they've done is that while they are now focusing heavily on monetization, that's why Mistral Large was released, right? As a closed model, but they're continuously investing in the research side, and I think the Mistral is the company that actually brought a mixture of experts model, while it was always there, mixture of experts model to a global frontier, commercially
Correct. Yeah.
consumable model, right? So that's what I really love about Mistral. They continue to push the boundaries, especially in the open source realm, right? While Llama 3 also, which just got released, right, also claims to be better than, or probably equivalent to GPT-4. This is something that we'll analyze in next podcast. But I mean, Mistral continues to push the boundaries on the open source side, right? So
I
really
mean,
good.
Llama 3, yeah, no, I mean, if I have to explain one line, Llama 3 is better than Llama 2, but still nowhere near what Mistral is doing. So Llama is under pressure for sure, But with the amount of money that those guys have, they have a larger runway compared to what Mistral has actually. So
I that is one, and I think one thing that sure we probably discussed in the past as well is that the distribution network, right? So now Llama has been integrated with Meta AI through WhatsApp
products, correct? Yeah, yeah.
products as well. That's what Google also has an advantage with Gemini, right? So, I mean, yeah, I mean, one is money, but I think they also have a distribution network which they can leverage. They have started leveraging now, right? So, I'll never underplay Llama for that matter, right? Well, Llama 3 will again discuss, but I'll, at least from this reachability perspective, I'll never underplay Llama.
Yeah, I mean, Llama 3 is only a partial release so far. So they're gonna release more versions of Llama 3 anyway. So yeah, let's cover that in the next episode.
Absolutely.
Um, cool. So that
Great.
brings an end to today's episode. Pretty short and sweet. Uh, in no way I'm saying that AI is slowing down. I'm not hinting at it, but probably I would say it's stabilizing. There are very clear trends that are emerging. As a company, both GoML and Lizer are growing, so I think we are just at the cusp of the tip of the iceberg still. There are lot things to do. We'll bring more interesting news in our next episode. And until then, see you. Take care and do more AI.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Shiva.